Hello and welcome to Empowerment. I'm Kelly Whetstone. Thank you for joining me today. It is 10 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. I am very happy to be here today, and I just want to share a happy little story with you, a little kiss on the cheek from God story with you, and then keep going because CA is my guest today. So I always kind of blast through this first part. But I've been talking about what a warm, dry winter we had and how, how that was tough, and I decided finally not to take it personally anymore, which is quite a feat on my part. Um, but in doing that, last Tuesday when I did the show, it was raining, which was really cool. Then it got really hot again and it was 60 something. I almost want to say it was like in the high 60s on Thursday. And on Friday, we got 6 inches of snow, and it was absolutely gorgeous. I woke up, it was snowing. It snowed until about 8 o'clock that night, and it was the heaviest, densest, watery spring snow. Uh, and it was absolutely fantastic. So, I mean, I just did a happy dance all day. Every time I'd look out and see actual snow, not that little stuff you can see through and have to squint to make sure it's actually snowing. Um, it was this beautiful, beautiful snow. So I just every time I looked out, I go, okay, keep going, don't stop yet. And sure enough, we just got this huge dump of snow, and then it was 50 degrees the day after, and yesterday, I think it was got up to 69 or something. So there's snow in just the shadowy places in my yard. But so that made me extremely happy. But the bonus was that my lawn got fertilized and aerated and overseeded the day before the snow. And I just had to, I mean, that's just a kiss on the cheek from God because I made the appointment. It's a company called Mile High, and they come and they do a liquid aeration, which is really cool because it's like what they do on golf courses. They don't go out and make holes in golf courses. They do a liquid aeration, and it works really, really well. But when I scheduled it like 2, 3 weeks ago for that day. I think it was the 5th, whatever it was, and um, had no idea we were going to get our first real snow since about the what was it, 2nd or 3rd of December. And so how perfect is that? I'm just that's supply in action. That's just God in action, and it makes me happy, and I have to share those stories with you because when you focus on good things, more good things happen. That's it. That's just how it all works. But anyway, now that it's all melting, I see green in my backyard instead of just brown grass. So very cool. Very cool. Spring will be here in like next week. So no, like next week, the 21st, I think. Anyway, C. Brooks is joining me today for our March 2026 meeting of the minds, which is always a fun discussion. And it's just a good time. It's a fun time and a good discussion. And if you would like to be part of it, we are live on 12radio.com and streaming on YouTube. You can go to the 12radio.com chat room and you can click the YouTube link posted under my banner, or you can subscribe to my channel on YouTube. And please feel free to comment or ask questions in the chat. We may or may not have time for readings today. We'll see how the conversation goes. We're always just led by our intuition and flow. So that's how it goes. But you can post your questions in there, and we lose the chat as soon as the show is over on YouTube. So we'll do our best. Let me just say it that way. We'll do our best. And whatever happens, happens. If you would like a reading from us, you can find both of us on 12listen.com. I'm available every day, usually later morning Pacific into the evening. If you stop by and don't see me, or if I happen to be busy, schedule a call, put in a callback request. I'm notified immediately. I will get back to you as soon as I can. If you'd like to be notified, we have specials on 12Listen a few times a week, which means reduced rates on calls and chats. And it's typically Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. and also 1-2 Day, which happens to be this coming Thursday. Um, if you want to be notified of those, just go to 12listen.com, sign up for 12 Promotions, which means you just leave your email address. But this Thursday is 1-2 Day, which is our favorite day of the month because we are not only on special with reduced rates on calls and chats, but they are randomly reduced for all of us throughout the day. So it's really a fun energy on 1-2 Day. I will be there again, probably around 11 or so Pacific time into the evening. I will also have a special price on a time-based session that day, and I'd love to talk to you. It's a fun day to come visit if you've never done so, or if you're a regular, it's a fun day to come visit. And as I said, I'd love to talk to you, so I hope you stop by. And I just want to thank you again for being here today and for listening, however and whenever you do. There is programming 24/7 on 12radio.com, and you can find archives of all the shows in the on demand section at 12radio.com. On YouTube, you can find this show and the shows that I've done on YouTube. You can just go to my channel and find those too. So, either way, you can listen. And 1-2 Radio is a great source of information, inspiration, and support. So I encourage you to take advantage of that. I really do. Or us on YouTube. Um, I listen to YouTube all the time. uh, All the time. Yesterday, I was listening to a new set of tapes that have been, or a new set of videos that have been put up. Joseph Campbell's Mythos, the second series. It's just fantastic. I mean, I learned so much. I love doing that. I love just sitting and listening and taking notes and expanding my horizons. You can expand your horizons on YouTube. You can also learn how to trim your plants up or whatever else you wanna know. But anyway, you can find us there and shows on 12radio.com in the archives. Um, as you know, I always speed talk when CA's here through this first part, but I'm always glad to have her on the show with me. Our once a month meeting of the minds is a very special show to me. She is a 1-2 Listen advisor, a clairvoyant astrologer, animal communicator. She's an avid student of A Course in Miracles, among other things. She writes the week ahead section of the Power Peak, Mark Huson's weekly newsletter. She hosts Everyday Astrology here on 1-2 Radio, which immediately precedes Empowerment Live every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific and streams live on YouTube. She has podcasts of her Course in Miracles show available in the on demand section at 12radio.com as well. So, our meeting of the minds, we I we've called it that forever. We've done this show, I think, since I don't know, 2010, 2009, something like that. And so it's been a long time, but it's where we can just bring everything and anything to the table. You know, spirituality, astrology, tarot, feng shui, stories. We both have a ton of stories that we tell, and it's just cool because it's two friends having a discussion. That's what this is. I set a topic, just a beginning space for our discussion, and then we just go with it. You know, we run with it from there. So we could talk forever. So this is always a fun show. And I will have CA join me in just a few minutes. Now, I have something that I need to talk about with someone else. And I shared it with you on last week's show as part of the show. The topic of the show was assumption, judgment, and self concept, and how those are all intertwined. Now, assumption and judgment make sense, but self-concept, that's that's I don't know what do you want to say. That's the wild card, actually, in this. That's a good word for it. That's the wild card. So, I mean, it made such an impression on me, and I didn't, I shared it with you, and it clicked, but it's just continued to click since then. I wrote my article about it in the Power Peak. If you read it, I apologize for the repeat, but sometimes repeating things is how it sinks in. In fact, I think that's how it sinks in. It's hard to grasp an understanding of something the first time you hear it or the first time you read it. So I'm going to share part of what I shared in that article and last week, um, because it brought about huge realization for me. And as I said, I want to have a discussion about it with someone else. So this is the perfect time to do it because my good friend is here on the show with me today. So I'm going to just recap a bit. And this is based on the 4 agreements, and that's how I've been doing my shows and will continue for the next show, possibly 2 shows. I pick one as kind of our jumping off point and then bring in other teachers, on the same subject, and so it's worked out really well, and it's been really fun to do it that way. But in the 4 agreements, the 3rd agreement is don't make assumptions. And Don Miguel Ruiz wrote, "We have the tendency to make assumptions about everything. The problem with making assumptions is that we believe their truth. We make assumptions about what others are doing or thinking. We take it personally. Then we blame them and react by sending emotional poison with our word." I think the basis of assumption is judgment. And our judgments are products of our influences, prenatal, early childhood, education, and life experience. They are the filters through which the human mind perceives everything. Therefore, we never have a new or uninfluenced experience. We size up situations and people and proceed according to what we've judged them to be. It's human nature. It's just what we do. Don Miguel Ruiz wrote, now this is the biggest thing that I've read, I mean, in a long time. This paragraph, sorry to jump in and cut it off, but listen to this. We make the assumption that everyone sees life the way we do. We assume that others think the way we think, feel the way we feel, judge the way we judge, and abuse the way we abuse. This is the biggest assumption that humans make. And this is why we have a fear of being ourselves around others, because we think everyone else will judge us, victimize us, abuse us, and blame us as we do ourselves. So even before others have a chance to reject us, we've already rejected ourselves. That is the way the human mind works. So, as I shared last week, that brought to mind the discomfort. I didn't get it the first time I read that. I mean, it didn't really hit. And then as I was thinking about it, all of a sudden, it just brought to mind, I'd like just had this flashback of the discomfort that I used to feel when I was around my family, mainly for big family gatherings, holiday gatherings, birthdays, that kind of thing. Because that's really the only time we're ever around each other. But 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 the discomfort came from my perception that they had always followed the quote unquote rules, had done everything right, and I just hadn't. I just hadn't. Therefore, I didn't measure up and I needed to make up for it. Now, after reading that statement from Ruiz, I realized that the judgment that I felt from them was my own self judgment. Those uncomfortable experiences were the result of my assumptions and judgments based on my self concept at the time. And and let me just or let me just narrow that down a bit. My self acceptance at the time, because that's what self concept is, what we agree to and accept as ourselves. So this was a massive revelation for me, just a huge revelation. And that was, those uncomfortable experiences were years ago. And I'm more different than they are now than I ever have been ever. And I love my family. I love my life. I'm completely myself when we are together, good, bad, or indifferent, and we have a great time. because they can be who they are and I'm who I am. But but and that's what I shared last week. Now, in thinking about it further, because it's just been a big part of my consciousness, I realized that in looking for approval from other people, we are automatically judging ourselves as lacking, or we wouldn't need their approval. If we're comfortable with ourselves, if we accept ourselves, we don't need anyone else's approval. We're just okay. And if we're good with ourselves, just how and where we are right now, then we automatically extend that grace to everyone else. And then we can just be in the moment, experiencing it and them and ourselves fully. And it's new and it's exciting because it's not interpreted through filters or judgment or assumptions. It's just what's happening. It's just what's happening. People being people, communicating. Reverend Ike said, I meet no one but me. And of course, this life experience, each person's life experience, according to Hindu philosophy, which I really, really like and makes a lot of sense to me. It's a play, like a play in a theater, in which God, all that is, plays all the parts. And I hear Ellen Watts in my ear saying, imagine the greatest actor in the world, namely God, playing to the greatest audience in the world, namely God. In the play that we call our lives, we, God as us, we are playing all the parts. Deepak Chopra wrote, whenever confronted by a tyrant, tormentor, teacher, friend, or foe, they all mean the same thing. Remind yourself, this moment is as it should be. Whatever relationships you've attracted to your life at this moment are precisely the ones you need in your life at this moment. There's a hidden meaning behind all events, and this hidden meaning is serving your own evolution. And that's from the Seven Spiritual Laws of Success. We can say we're one, and that is true because there is no other. There is no other. But think about it in this way. I mean, we say that, and that's one of those things that we say that, and then we realize that. And I think we realize that in levels. Um, but think about it in this way. We know what our life experience has been, but everyone else's life experience is ours as well. And we can all benefit from each other's experience. Think about how much greater our understanding could be, how much greater our compassion could be. But we'd have to drop the assumptions and judgments. And I think we can only do that through acceptance of ourselves and everyone else, just as we all are, right here and right now. Anyway, this is a big topic. It lit me up, and I'm excited to hear CA's thoughts. Welcome, CA. Thank you for joining me today.
Hey, thank you very much, Kelly. And you're right. What a big topic.
Isn't that incredible? I
Yes.
mean, it just is. Sorry, I'll shut up now.
No, no, no.
You
And
talk.
it is a big topic. I really liked what you had to say. Not that you need my approval. Sorry about that.
Oh, I
But I mean,
appreciate it.
it really resonates. And it just reminds me of multiple things. But one of the things it
Good.
reminds me of is an experience I had years ago in which I attended a lecture from a group that I ended up realizing very quickly I didn't want to have anything to do with. However, just that idea, you're always, in a sense, in the right place at the right time, or you learn something.
Yeah.
They did something that was very pertinent to what you just said, that I've never forgotten it because it was such a visual. And
Mm,
what the lecturer said was, imagine that you have a Kleenex over your face. And then as you go through life, you keep gathering all these Kleenexes, and they're in your ears, they're over your eyes, they're basically just covering you. And those are equivalent to what you were talking about with the assumptions. We're never without our filters.
Oh,
And yet the thing is, I don't know. I mean, let's put it this way. The only place I might depart is saying, I'm not sure we ever get rid of the filters. However, I think becoming aware of the filters is
yes.
like a giant step, because and just remember that visual of the Kleenex. And so many times I stop and I ask myself, what am I looking through? What am I blocking? Or what is the idea or the filter that I'm using in this situation? And like I said,
Mhm.
I'm not sure I know how to get rid of the filters, but even understanding that I have them,
Mhm.
understanding, and going back to how you were kind of wrapping up the conversation, just accepting myself, accepting and
Right.
go, yep, that's your filter, that's the one you
Yeah,
use. And maybe not necessarily laughing about it, but just understanding that, I mean, because in some ways life on planet earth is very, very complicated.
for
it
sure.
doesn't it doesn't need to be, but it is. And
True.
just like the very fact, the way that, if you want to buy into the idea, we created these physical bodies, we're spiritual entities having physical experiences. Well, we created these bodies that are based, in a sense, on previous learning. You couldn't get up and out of bed in the morning if you didn't know how to sit. I mean, your body has
Of
muscle
course.
memory, or walking. And so there's a part of you that says, I can't exist if I don't remember the past and use what I learned before. And so that's why I think personally, I'm not sure I would certainly spend the rest of my life trying to get rid of all the assumptions. But just as we keep going, yep, that's one of my assumptions. All right. Yep. That's one of my filters. And maybe, and I think I can challenge them. Maybe I don't need that filter anymore. Or maybe I can substitute something else. But just having the self-awareness and the self-acceptance, like you said, I think that's the biggest thing, the
It is.
awareness and the acceptance. Because yeah, maybe this is who I am, and maybe I'm not going to be able to change it, but I can be okay with it.
Mhm.
I can just embrace it and go, yep, that's who I am. In fact, one of the phrases I love is the line that somebody will say something to you that is meant to be cutting, and I'll go, you say that like it's a negative thing.
Mhm.
Which indicating
Mhm.
I like it. Thank you for pointing that out. I like that about myself, that
Mhm.
sort of thing. So I just think, I'm loving that you're reading the Four Agreements, and getting all this wonderful stuff, because almost everything you said was just incredible. And I also love the idea that however we want to see it, that whenever whoever we're confronting in our life, we're really confronting ourselves.
Absolutely.
Because like one of the ideas, and it's a metaphor analogy, I'm not sure what the difference is between those two, I need to look it up. But the idea that, let's say, every single person on the planet who's ever been on the planet, that we're all one big piece of glass that's shattered into billions and billions of pieces.
Mhm.
Well, all the pieces look different. You come up to me and you've got this edge, or I've got this, edge. But the truth is, we're all the same.
Mhm.
And the more that
Mhm.
we can understand, the more that we can kind of dive into that feeling is, this is just another piece of me. This is just
Yeah.
another piece, and it looks different. And in fact, and of course, in Miracles, one of the lines that people say is, the differences don't make a difference.
Mhm.
Those outer things that we think we see, or, oh, I don't like that, or I don't like this, those outer things don't make a difference. They're not
No.
important.
No,
Because
those are the
when
judgments and assumptions.
yeah,
Yeah.
when it's all analyzed, we're all a piece of glass. We're all the same piece of glass. We're not
Right.
different. We're not different in the way that it really matters. Even though I could say, boy, I sure like sitting with somebody who doesn't rub me wrong, I mean, it's okay to have preferences for what we might call form. It's okay. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't think we have to go around saying, "Oh, I just love everybody and I love everything about everybody." But ultimately, our peace of mind is determined by saying, "But you know what? They're not different than me. Their differences don't make a difference."
Mhm.
You know?
Well, it's like the first thing that he said in that, uh, paragraph is that we think that everyone thinks the way we do. We make the
Yes.
assumption that everyone sees life the way we do. We assume I'm reading it again. We assume that others think the way we think, feel the way we feel, judge the way we judge, and abuse the way we abuse. And this is the biggest assumptions that human make. That's why we have a fear of being ourselves around others because we think everyone else will judge us, victimize us, abuse us, and blame us as we do. He brings it all down back to us.
Mhm.
So even before others have a chance to reject us, we've already rejected ourselves. And that's the way the human mind works.
Mhm.
I just think that that's just it just brings it all back here. What is my self-concept? What do I,
Mhm.
what do I, and our self-concept is built on is ego, which is a
Mhm.
construct, which is built on those influences. And so, we assume that everything is, we take for granted that how we see it is the way it is. And it's not, because
Right.
everybody's seeing it through their own influence. You know what I mean? Nobody,
Yes.
that's why nothing is personal. That's why nothing's
Yes.
ever personal, because it's coming through each individual and their individual influences. Um, it's just, it's that paragraph just blew me away, and I just keep thinking
Mhm.
about it, It just makes so much sense. So if
Well,
I'm offended by something somebody says, what is it in me that would take offense at that? What do I
mhm.
believe that would make me offended by that?
Mhm.
Or, anyway, sorry,
Oh, no, 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 no.
this
I
is
don't
fascinating.
apologize. Like I said, I love all this stuff. I thought, and I really appreciate that you had so much, you might call corroborating information from so many different authors. But I'll tell you what also struck me about that paragraph is the idea, and it made me sad actually, that we're rejecting ourselves. That is what we're doing.
Yeah,
For we
big
think all this
word.
stuff about, oh yeah, I'm so self-confident and I'm so good and I so love myself. And it's like, then we wouldn't be afraid. You know, we
Mhm,
are rejecting ourselves. And, there again, even just accepting that
mhm,
on some level, I think I'm wrong. On some level, I think I'm not enough. On some
mhm,
level, I'm worthy of this person's abuse.
mhm.
And,
Or
can we
my
just
own.
yeah, yeah, but that's it. We're kind of coming from that basis. And I'm like, why do we do that? And I mean,
Mhm.
I think it's a spiritual question. I truly do. I think that's where
Oh,
it's
yeah.
coming from. And,
Mhm.
and so many of our religions are based on it, right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, I mean, that's one thing that I will admit. I mean, I've always been into, in a sense, religion, but
Mhm.
definitely, philosophy and
Me
spirituality, and
too.
just noticing, especially I'd say in the last 10 years, how abusive most religions are to their members. And I just want to ask somebody, why do you give devotion to a God that would treat you that way?
Mhm.
Why do we do it? I mean, and what a philosophical question. Why do we give devotion to these and I'm now calling them mythological gods? Mythological gods that treat us so badly. Do this or you're
Mhm.
going to be punished. You know, offend
Mhm.
God and you're going to get cancer. Do this and whatever. And it's like, really? I mean, what kind of God would do that to people? And and
Well,
and there again, it kind of goes back to just what you're saying, even collectively as groups, we're like into rejecting ourselves.
mhm.
Yeah.
Think about think about the memories that come up and bring guilt or
Uh-huh.
shame,
Uh-huh.
and it's stuff that you did a million years ago. You know, in this own life, in this life, you did it when you were a kid or
Yeah.
something that happened, and
Yeah.
you're still or I speak personally, and I'm still punishing myself for that every time that memory comes in.
Mhm.
That's the opportunity to go, "Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
ridiculous." There's no condemnation in source. There is no
Right.
condemnation of any
Right.
kind. And the people that, the belief that God is a punishing God outside of you or a withholding God, which is what you're believing if you're asking God for things and not having them, that God doesn't exist. That's a
No.
dualistic um, view of God and man. God is man. I mean,
Yeah.
we are the individualization of source, and there is no limit, and there's no condemnation, and there's I mean, if we can have it, whatever good we desire, if we can quote unquote have it, be it, demonstrate it, then it's it. We have it.
Mhm.
And that's all we have to do. That's all we have to do. But boy, to think about, one thing that Ruiz talks about, the first agreement is to make our word impeccable. And just briefly, what that word impeccable means, it means without sin. And so he said, every time we, criticize or talk or gossip, even about ourselves, we, and not even not about ourselves, we're sinning against ourselves when we criticize someone else, when we gossip, when we do that, because and that's just karma. Karma is a thing that's done, but never one thing that's done, one thing that's said. It's never just a thing that's said because it's imbued with emotion. Typically it's imbued with energy, and so somehow some way that's going to come back. And I think when you're doing your best to be a kind and compassionate person, say, and you say something about someone that isn't kind, I feel it in my gut immediately. It's like instant
Mhm.
karma, and
Mhm.
I have to shake that energy. But it all brings it back to us, just us. Um, and I think that's fantastic. But there is
Mhm.
no, there is no, it's non-dual. We are it.
Mhm. Well, and another gem that you had in there was when you said we realize it in levels.
Hmm.
And I think that's so important too, because we think of it as, okay, I want to do this. I want to have this. I want to have my peace of mind, or I want whatever. And then we mess it up. And just recognizing, you know what, this is like learning to play a sport. You do it over and over and over. And every time you gain a little bit more mastery. But you don't
Right.
kick yourself, because we learn it in levels. And it's like, oops, yeah, I twisted my thumb to the wrong direction. That's why slice that ball or whatever.
Right.
It's like, well, that's what it is. And I mean, we do it over and over and over until the muscle memory or whatever pretty much takes over. But we don't get that until we practice it. And if we
Right.
kick ourselves or condemn ourselves every single time we make a mistake, then you throw the racket or the bat or whatever it is, and you just don't do it anymore. It's like, no, we learn it in levels. And
Mhm.
ultimately, so often it's like what you were just saying. You do something and you go, boy, that didn't feel good. That doesn't feel
Mhm.
good. You know, I'm going to pay more attention to that, because no, that doesn't give me what I want. When I criticize that person, when I make them wrong, it doesn't make me feel better about life. It doesn't make me feel better about myself.
Mhm.
And so, okay,
Mhm.
accept it, look at it, have some self-awareness, and move on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and when we get caught, like your example was great. We did whatever it was wrong, and then we sit there and stew in it. we also don't go far if we do that.
Well, and
When we sit there and kick ourselves and kick ourselves and kick ourselves, when we could be, like, practicing more.
well, and the other thing is, I would say we don't even have to go to the place of saying it's wrong. It just didn't get me where I wanted. I didn't get the
That's a
ball
good
where I
point.
wanted it to go. I mean, in some
I
ways,
like that.
my goal, and I mentioned peace of mind because I mean, well, it's just important to me that so often what we really want is peace of mind. It's
Yeah,
not so much whether or not it's the money or the house or the person's smile or whatever it is. We want peace of mind. And we want to live in a way that those other things don't matter because they can't disturb our peace of mind. And
right.
so if my goal is to learn tennis or pickleball or anything else, every time the ball doesn't go where I want it to go, I need to self correct that. But it's not wrong. It's just not what I wanted.
Mhm.
And same thing with, if I criticize somebody or if I do, fall back into some of those assumptions and those behaviors, it just doesn't feel good. And in some
Mhm.
ways I just go, did that take away your peace of mind? Uh-huh. Okay, let's do it different.
Yeah.
Let's just do it differently. And I also wanted to go back. I've said this multiple times, but it is to me one of the things that really got me into astrology, kept me in astrology, or into other things as well that are metaphysics, but astrology in particular. And that is the idea that why don't people think like me? Why don't people love like me? Why don't they talk like me?
Oh,
And
perfect.
of course,
Oh,
I always thought they did. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, probably as a child and a teenager, I'd ask myself, what's wrong with that person? Why would they
mhm.
say that? Why would they think that? Then I start studying astrology. And every single planet has a psychological profile. But one of maybe the most important to this conversation is Mercury. Mercury's the planet of thinking. It's the
Mhm.
way we connect the dots. And so I start looking at this Mercury and realize that astrologically speaking, it has 12 different ways of expressing itself. So then I start looking at the motivation of why does Cancer speak different than Sagittarius? Why does Aries speak different than Capricorn? And once I
Very
started,
interesting.
yeah, when I started studying the mythology of that, I go, oh my God, I get it. I get why somebody with a Mercury in Cancer is going to talk about different things than I talk about. They're going to express themselves differently for a different reason. Now, the truth is, astrologically, we have all those concepts, all those psychological profiles. We all have them. So we can resonate, to them one way or another. But if your Mercury is sitting in Taurus, then you may be that person who says, you know what? I'm not going to waste words. I'm going to
Mm.
speak when it's important. And or I'm only going to speak about the important stuff. And of course, I always think of Clint Eastwood with Mercury and
Mm.
Taurus. And by the way, he has Mercury and Taurus, but
Oh, he does.
he kind of became famous by being the silent movie star, He took
That's true.
action. Yeah, he took action, but he wasn't out there like playing lawyers with these incredible dialogues or monologues, was he?
Oh,
You know? And
you're
so
right. That's good.
once
Mhm.
I started looking at that, I go, oh my God, I get it. And even though I'd like to say now have no judgments, which is not true, but I often stop and think as I'm listening to somebody talk, I go, I wonder what sign they're expressing because we're different. We have a different motivation. And so
Mhm.
astrology, and like I said, I've said this before, astrology gives me such an appreciation for why all these pieces of glass look different. They're not
Mhm.
different. Ultimately, we're
Mhm.
not different. But the way we think, we need to express or feel or act or behave or any number of other things, it can be understood through some systems. They don't make it happen, but it helps me understand what is motivating that person and why they're doing it or thinking it a different way than me. Because I think I
Mhm.
really did believe everybody's got to think like me. Why would they think differently?
Well, I think that's why people have arguments with other people. I
Hmm.
mean, I think that explains a whole lot. We think everybody thinks the way we do.
Yes.
I mean, it's just that was just a real revelation. I know I've said it 50 times in the course of this show, but it
Yeah.
really was. Yeah, and that makes I love how you're explaining it though through, um, how Mercury's influenced by the sign that it's in. You and I both have Mercury in Aries, don't we?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can hear it.
Can you tell?
Yeah. Boom. Well, and I always say, I mean, and this is so true. People always tend to say something equivalent like this to me. You are so adamant. But they say it
Oh,
oftentimes in situations in which I'm not adamant at all. I don't think, because it'll be something like they'll ask me directions and I'll go, I've never been there. I don't know where it is. And later they'll say, well, you were really adamant. And I'm like, well, how adamant can I be about something I told you I don't know anything about?
doesn't make
And
any
then
sense, like,
it
at all.
doesn't. But see, Kelly, it happens so often that I stopped and thought, you know what? That's Mercury and Aries. They hear and feel the enthusiasm and the power of fire coming at them.
Mm,
That's what
okay.
they feel. So now I know if I really want to be gentle, I have to go overboard to be gentle because they're going to
Mm,
hear fire.
interesting.
They're just going to hear fire. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that wasn't like loud or screaming or adamant, but that's
Mm-mm.
what people hear.
Mhm.
And so there again, just having some self-awareness. And I can fight to the death and say, well, that's not what I meant, or I wasn't trying to be adamant. It doesn't matter. That's
That was
what
their
they
perception.
hear. Yeah.
Right,
And so if I
right.
want to take into account that that's likely to be somebody's perception, then, if I want to get along with them, I need to back off.
Yeah,
You know? I mean,
yeah.
I
Uh,
remember this guy said to me a few years ago, I was trying to hire him to do something for me. And I don't know if I talked about this on the show, but he wasn't returning my calls. And so I finally left him a message I thought was very nice. And I said, look, I really need to find somebody to do this. So if you're not available at this time or you're on vacation or you just can't do this, would you just let me know? And if I don't hear from you in 24 hours, I'm going to assume that you're just not interested and I'm going to move on. Well, boy, he called me back with this kind of blustery thing, and he drives over to my house and he even says, am I going to have problems with you? And I was just kind of like, oh my God. You know? I mean, I thought it was really funny because I thought, sweetheart, that was so toned down from what I wanted to say.
right, right, but that fire of what you wanted to say obviously went through the airwaves and
It
burned his ears.
well, it was a text, I think. So, it was, but
Broke
see
his
there
eyes then.
again, but the reason I'm emphasizing text, see, once again, who's reading the text? He's got his filters, his assumptions
Of
about what
exactly.
those words. I really did say, I mean, I was feeling like, hey, I am a little annoyed you haven't returned my calls, but the main thing is I just need to find somebody. That's all I care
Need to get
about.
this work done.
But
Mhm,
he,
mhm.
I'm sure, heard a lot of judgment because, like I said, he drove right over to my house and said, am I going to have problems with you? And by the way, he still does, he routinely does some work for me. And he almost always says something like that to me.
Oh, funny.
Are you going to be a thorn in my side today? I don't know. I'll try.
It's possible.
It's possible, honey.
Apparently, you're very sensitive. It's possible.
Yes, but like I said, we seem to still have this relationship, and he laughs. I mean,
That's kind of funny. That's
I
great.
yeah, but see, and there again, assumptions. I just think he probably is used to working with men and or
Mhm,
working with women that just do whatever he says.
mhm,
And I don't tend to do that.
mhm.
As you know.
Exactly.
But in any case, my point was when we've got something like astrology, or we have a system, or we have a belief, or whatever, that helps us understand that we really aren't all the same. We don't think
Yeah.
the same. Hey, and
Yeah.
speak of the devil, guess who just texted me?
The
That
guy.
guy, that guy. I think he heard us talking about him.
Oh, that's a peach. That's
That
just
is so
great.
funny. My phone was vibrating and I looked over and it was him. I better stop talking about him.
Yeah, were your ears burning?
Must have been. But yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
that's great.
everything that you've talked about today has just been so wonderful. And just like I said, so many gems. Like we realize it in levels and understanding or trying to really look at our assumptions. And also
Yeah,
that idea, we didn't talk a whole lot about it, but I meet no one but me,
right,
you know? And
right.
so often it's like, yeah, is this how you would treat yourself? If you really saw that other person as you,
Mhm.
how would you treat them? How would you be with them? You know?
Well,
And we
either
really
better
can't,
or depending on how you treat
yeah.
yourself. I mean, it's just so deep. How do I
Yes.
and that's
Yes.
it. I mean, we perceive people through our influences, and our influences are, our self-concept, our ego.
Mhm.
So, man, I mean, it's just there's like we're in the weeds. We're in the weeds a lot,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, we are. And but there again, almost learning to laugh at it. Like,
Yeah,
I'm just a bundle of contradictions here, Or just
yeah,
so, yeah, that was me. And I shot that ball in the wrong direction.
yeah,
And I'm gonna reshoot it. I'm gonna redo this. I'm gonna rethink this.
yeah. And I think really and truly the only way we move past it is through acceptance. Just
Hmm.
acceptance of ourselves in this moment where we are, just accept it, and acceptance of the situation, whatever it is, and what we have to do about it,
Hmm.
or that person or the conversation or whatever. And I think just being being the best we can be.
Hmm.
Just being our best selves, being kind, doing our best to be the instrument through which the truth of our being expresses, in the physical plane, and letting all the flax, so to speak, just drop away
Hmm. Well, and
in
I
the
also,
moment where we
yeah,
are in the moment,
yeah,
because we're
I
not
also,
going to be a million miles ahead of ourselves instantly.
yeah, and I said that life is complicated, and oftentimes it feels that way to me, just so complicated, but it doesn't need to be. So in that moment, we can also go back to what is it I really want?
Yeah.
What's the simple through line here? And it's I want to have peace of mind. Or maybe in a particular interaction, we think, I just want to be kind. I just want to be kind. So I don't want to analyze this to death. I just want to be kind. I want to remember what is the simplest thing that's going on here. And is
Mhm.
this, and like I said, not over analyzing it. And I'm talking to myself because I love to analyze, you know,
Uh-huh.
but it doesn't get me very far. So just go back to the basics. What do I really want? In this interaction, I want peace of mind.
Mhm.
I don't want to walk away feeling like I've been abusive or I've been abused. I
Mhm.
want peace of mind. I want to feel okay. And I
Mhm.
don't want to be controlled by the circumstances. I just want to feel
Right.
peace of mind. And oftentimes we can't control the circumstances, but I do
No.
think we can control peace of mind. Go,
Right.
I'm okay with this. I accept this. And you another thing that you had said, this is going to work out to, you didn't say to my benefit. It was a Deepak Chopra thing. I'm trying to think how you
Mhm.
said it. But basically that there's a hidden meaning that's going to serve my evolution here.
Yeah, the hidden meaning
So,
behind all events, and it's serving your own evolution.
yeah,
Yep,
so
no matter
okay.
what's happening. Mhm,
Yeah, it
mhm.
didn't turn out like I thought it was going to turn out. But you know what? It's going to serve my evolution. That's what's important. It's not a mistake. It's what it is. I'm here
Yeah,
to
and
play. I'm here to play.
yeah. Well, and the thing is that we don't learn we learn pardon me, we learn through adversity, overcoming adversity,
Mm,
or choosing not to be offended by something
yes.
someone says. That I mean, adversity is a big word, but it's the same thing. It's choosing not to be offended, choosing, okay, this is a tough thing, but it's not gonna beat me. I can sit here
Right.
and I can open my mind, my heart, and just ask for help, guidance, and get it. Taking it takes the bigness off things because things are big because we make them big through our
Mhm.
perception. Everything has its quality through our perception. Everything is just a thing that it is until we decide it's a certain way.
Yes, bingo.
Yep.
Bingo. I mean, that's absolutely true. Nothing has meaning that we don't give it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yep.
Hmm. So it's all
And
us.
yep, it is all
We
us.
are the center of our universe.
And on that note, we better be wrapping up this show or Serena's going to be
Oh,
kicking us off.
yep, we got another minute, and I just wanna say happy birthday before
Oh,
anything
thank
else. I know
you.
it's are you you're gonna take the day, right?
Well, I am gonna be on One to Listen for a while, but I do have several different things going on with family, and so, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to
Good.
just be on all day long, but I do promise I will have a specially priced time-based session, and those are
Great.
great because you can buy it on my birthday. In fact, I should probably call it a birthday reading or something. Um, you can buy it that day and then use it whenever you want.
Right, and that's the 12th. We didn't say that.
Oh,
CA's
yes, that's
birthday is
right,
the
the
12th,
12th.
which is 1-2 day.
Yes.
So, good, good, good. Okay, good. Well, thank you so much for being with me today. This has been just a great talk. I really
Oh,
appreciate it,
oh, I
CA.
agree. So many. In fact, I was taking notes the whole time, and I'm going to
Cool.
go back and review them. Thank you so much, Kelly. I learned so
You
much, and
bet.
I always truly feel empowered by your show. So thank you so much, and thanks
Yay.
everybody for
Great.
listening today.
Absolutely. Everyone, you've been listening to Empowerment. I'm Kelly Whetstone. My guest today was C.A. Brooks. We are here on 1-2 Radio, where we're changing the way that you listen to the world. I wish you a very, very blessed week, and please stay tuned for Katie Weaver. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you next Tuesday.